Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Crossin Streams. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about Netflix's The Dragon Prince, Book 1, Moon. This will be a spoiler-free as possible discussion because, well, I don't want to ruin this show for those that haven't seen it. In the land of Xadia, humans are in conflict with the dragons and elves after the humans were banished to the opposite side of the continent. The humans were banished because some of them learned to use dark magic, which is powered with the lives of magical creatures. After the death of the Dragon King and his egg, war between the two sides is imminent. It is this event that causes an unlikely trio of heroes from opposite sides of the conflict to band together to try to stop the war from happening. The Dragon Prince is the new series on Netflix created by the head writer and director of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aaron E. Haas, along with Justin Richmond, who was a writer and story editor on Futurama. This being a fantasy-style cartoon and the Avatar connection was enough of a sell for me to really want to watch it. So, did it deliver on the goods? Well, for the most part, yeah. I'd like to go ahead and get what didn't work for me out of the way. And this will be pretty easy because both things are so minimal that they don't really matter that much. First was the animation. Now, for most of the time during these 9 episodes, the animation is really good. You can definitely see the Avatar inspiration behind it. There are just some times that the animation looks a little choppy when characters are moving. For the times that this happened, it was when these characters were moving really slow. An example is there is a scene where General Amaya, two of the main characters, Callum and Ezran's badass and yes, deaf aunt, is slowly signing a prayer. The animation just felt a little jerky. But again, this isn't a constant thing, but it does happen more than once. The other thing was some of the humor. The way this series uses humor is just one of the many ways that it feels like Avatar, where the characters make light of a lot of situations, but there is an underlying more serious story going on with the whole thing. Here and there, not too many times, but here and there, some of the jokes just don't land. One that really stood out for me is where a character blames a horse for farting, but the person on that horse says it wasn't the horse. Thankfully, most of the humor lands, and most of the bodily function humor, where there really isn't a lot of it, is left up to Bait. That's Ezran's pet glow toad. Okay, so with my very minor gripes out of the way, let's talk about what I did like. Pretty much everything else. Let's start with how the story is being told. Fans of Avatar will be familiar with how this one is going to go. There are 6 types of original magic in the show: moon, sun, stars, earth, ocean, and sky. With the first book called Moon, we can assume that there will at least be 5 more chapters whose names are based on the other magics. I'm also going to guess that since these episodes are so short and because there is only 9 in the first book and assumingly the others as well, there will probably be a 7th book called Dark or Dark Magic. I mean, hopefully there will be anyway, because if you couldn't tell already, this show's kind of good. When it comes to the characters, for the most part, I've liked all of them. The show introduces a lot of them very quickly, so there is a lot to follow. That being said, all of them are easy enough to follow and remember, so it's not something you really got to work hard at, having to remember a bunch of different things. One thing I liked about having so many moving pieces is that while some characters are pretty easy to figure out motivation-wise, some aren't. There are a few wildcard characters that might make decisions that you either might not expect or could turn the tide of the main quest of the show. The main trio of characters are all pretty fun to follow. Again, another Avatar connection here. In a way, their interactions will remind you of Avatar's main trio, Aang, Sokka, and Katara. Heck, one of them, the mage Callum, is voiced by the voice actor behind Sokka, Jack DeSena. Callum and Prince Ezran are half-brothers, and Rayla is the Moonshadow Elf assassin that was sent to kill Ezran. Long story. The way and why they come together is something that I'll let you discover for yourself. Along with them, like the Avatar group, they have a cute pet sidekick, the aforementioned Bait, the Glow Toad. All three characters, and Bait, for that matter, are interesting because while they're all instantly likable, all of them have secrets and or talents that will come into play later in the series. As for the other characters, the main ones that you have to know are Viren, the High Mage of the King, and his two kids, Soren, a member of the Crown Guard, and Claudia, a mage like her father. While it's pretty obvious that Viren at least has some ambition for the throne, albeit a bit conflicted at times, it's his kids that are going to be real wild cards of the show. When the trio goes on the run, for reasons again I won't spoil, Viren sends his kids to find them, but he gives both of them separate secret missions to fulfill. These missions may or may not go against these two characters' feelings for at least one of the trio. Soren trains Callum in sword fighting, and Claudia has a thing for Callum, and he pretty much feels the same way about her. When this series continues, and I'm pretty confident that it will, at least I hope I'm confident that it will, these things are probably going to come into play. Two side characters that I'm really interested in knowing more about are Corvus the Tracker and General Maya, who I mentioned earlier. Corvus just seems like he has a lot of secrets and or has been involved in a lot of missions that nobody has talked about or knows about. General Maya seems like the honorable warrior that knows that Viren is up to something, and hopefully in future episodes we'll get to help put a stop to him. Plus, again, she's just a badass, and I want to see more of her. One minor thing that I want to address, and is also something I'm looking forward to seeing more of, is the nationality comparisons of the characters. The Moonshadow Elves, including Rayla, are clearly speaking with a Scottish accent. This makes me curious if other elves will speak different types of accents when we meet them further into the series. I really like that. Like most other shows and movies, elves, at least the Moonshadow ones, weren't automatically given an English accent. When it comes to the humor of the show, as mentioned before, most of it works. While it does have a few nods to things from our world, like the word hangry, for example, most of it never really feels forced, like in Disenchantment, for example. The show also is pretty self-aware that people will take its use of a fantasy realm and link it to the popularity of Game of Thrones. While I wouldn't say it takes a ton of things from the much more adult show, this one is a kid show after all. They do drop a joke or two, as well as a plot thread or two that nods to Game of Thrones. Something about seasons. When it comes to the use of magic, once again, you can see the Avatar influence. Well, not as simple as needing the element to make magic, so to speak. Casting a spell still takes certain hand gestures combined with certain words to pull them off. What's cool is that there are 6 types of magic, 7 if you count dark magic. So there is a lot for our young mage Callum to learn throughout the entire series. Remember, we're only in book 1, and he's got a lot to learn, and I have a feeling that by the end of the series, he is going to be a badass. When the action is happening in this show, it's pretty fast-paced and exciting to watch. There are a few fight scenes that I definitely put on par with Avatar, such as when we see 2 Moonshadow Elves fight. Oops, I said a little bit too much there. Fans of Avatar and fantasy fans alike will dig the hell out of this series. What's cool about it is, like Avatar and Korra, this is the type of show that is fun enough for the kiddos, yet engaging and just complex enough for the biggos. I know I keep comparing the show to Avatar, and some of you might be thinking, could it be too much like Avatar to work? And to that, I'd say not at all. This show takes the things that you loved from Avatar and Korra and puts it in a more traditional fantasy type setting. If we are not going to get more stories from the Avatar universe, which would be an unfortunate shame, this show is more than a satisfactory replacement for it. If you couldn't already tell, I loved this book of the Dragon Prince, and I cannot wait for more of it. That's going to be all for this edition of Crossin Streams. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel, like this video, and if you have anything to say about this show, please feel free to comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. See you later.